Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I'm your host Hajra Sati and joining me is my wonderful co-host happens to be Fahim Bangesh. Assalamu alaikum Fahim. How are you doing today?
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm very well. Thank you very much. Hajra, while I was coming here, like in the morning, it's our habit. I should not be proud of it. But we often open our cell phones and often we check what are the notifications and what's new, what's going on in the world. So I was thinking often we call it a very mediocre, social media basically. It's a mediocre platform. Yes, you're right in many ways. Yes, totally, I understand. But sometimes you get to find really, really interesting stuff, especially when it comes to the reels, especially when it comes to different methods of how you can meditate, how you can relax yourself, and how you can wake up as a new person every day. Because I believe that using social, anything can be bad. They say excess of everything is bad. Excess of even money, love is bad. So definitely if you use it in the right manner, you can find really good pointers for living, for spending your life, for dealing with your loved ones. And I think I get to learn one thing or the other every day from social media. Do you?
Yes, of course, and there's a very famous maxim nowadays floating on the social media, and I would like to quote it here, and it says that your vibe attract your tribe, right?
Yes.
So how are you feeling about yourself? What sort of energy you want to access to, and then the universe or nature sends you that sort of energy, right? So if you are up for and if you are intrigued by the knowledge, obviously you're going to find the knowledge. And the reason why I often point that the social media promote mediocrity is because majority of the people, majority of the digital natives who are using social media, the sort of conversations that they are having is...
Oh, that I agree
Yes,
with.
yes. So that promotes the mediocrity because usually they are having this very polarized sort of a conversation where there's an exchange of very ill talk going on. That is why I call it mediocre. But there is definitely good stuff out there, and if you want to dig it around, I mean, you can find plenty of good stuff. There are research papers, there are articles, there are books. Knowledge which was inaccessible or might be not easily accessible is at our fingertips, right?
And
and
even
at the power
music
of the palms.
that was inaccessible like a decade or so ago.
True.
You can now find it. It has been uploaded on platforms like YouTube, etc. And such good music, especially if you're an aficionado of good classical music, be it Western or Eastern, you will be able to find it, and you will be able to have a very, very good time as far as that is concerned.
Yes, it's all about how you engage with it, what
Absolutely.
sort of content you are subscribing to, and obviously it's very personalized algorithms. So whatever you are searching about it, it is going to present you the same content, the same sort of
actually
content.
not just even searching, even if you say it out loud,
of course,
it's going to show up.
And it's called smartphone for that reason, because it's very smart in identifying your needs and wants and whatever you want. But Fahim, now let's come back to today, because budget is going to be presented in the National Assembly.
It's a historic day today.
Yes, of course. And when we were coming from our houses commuting towards our office, so we could see that there was security beefed up, because it's a special day today, obviously in the red area, and it's very happening on the day today. And obviously we are going to talk about the budget, what are the implications of that, what sort of growth rate have we achieved, and what are we aspiring for, and how can we strive for better economic standards to come, especially when we talk about this year and the coming year. So without any further ado, let's unroll this conversation and let's dissect the budget that the government is going to give today. So without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by an analyst who happens to be Zameer Awan. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalamu alaikum, Zameer Awan Sahib. It's a pleasure having you here. Zameer Sahib, you have spent your life looking at yearly budgets every year, coming one after the other. What sort of a thing are we expecting in this budget? Of course, we'll get into the depth of it, but in general, if we analyze it, how would you say, would it be beneficial for the people? Would you say it would be a bit tough for the people? Tough decisions would have to be taken in this particular budget, or would people have to compromise a lot?
In fact, budget is something which is relevant to every common person.
Exactly.
It has impact on public life, including me and you.
Of course.
So it is a concern of everyone. You know, our economic situation in this country, our budget deficit is there, creation of wealth is limited, and our external debt is very heavy. Under these circumstances, the budget, we should not be having over expectation. The government has its own difficulties. They have to meet some of the revenue targets. So, they always try to collect more tax from the public. Always the governments claim that budget is poor friendly, public friendly, but always there are some direct or indirect taxes to the public. The easiest way of imposing the tax, basically the tax can be collected from two sources. One is the salaried person, one is the business community.
Yes.
If you squeeze the business community, they will leave the country and they will take their industry or their business or their investment to other countries. Jebel Ali is duty free zone and they also can go to Bangladesh or any other country. So, if you are very strict with them, you will offend them. The easiest way is to cut the tax from the source, that is the salaried person. That is the easiest way. Unfortunately, every year we are lacking the target of revenue collection, and while we are going to the IMF has its own requirement that we should have more revenue collection. Creation of wealth by the government is very limited and little option. The easiest way is tax collection. So, they always import some tax on public in the form of electricity charges, petroleum charges or gas charges or indirect tax or direct tax. So, this is the only way. So, every budget we should not have over expectations. As a nation, we know our situation, economic situation, and we should understand the government's limitations. It is better that the public should cooperate with the government, and government also try to accommodate the poor and the middle class. President Zardari has also shown his concern of the budget, and he has asked the government to cater for the middle and the lower class, and it should be the people friendly budget. It is always government's efforts, but sometimes the government has limitations.
Right, sir. And when we talk about catering to the poor people, so in an idealized economic system, how do you envision that, how can government cater to the poor people? Or there are some case studies which you want to recall here and ruminate upon in our studio, so that we can have a deliberate discussion on what exactly is good.
As a matter of fact, the capitalism system of economy is not catering only the poor people. The poor is getting more poor and the richer is getting more rich.
True.
That is the
critique on the capitalism.
Yes, capitalism system. However, our government has given some relaxation to the poor people. The income tax limit has a little bit catering the poor people. If you have less than a certain amount of your income, you are tax exempted. And the government has provided the minimum salary to the poor people. You cannot pay less than that salary. So, of course, within the limitations, the government is trying to cater the poor people. But of course, government has its own limitation. They have to manage the country, they have so many expenditure, they have some development projects, they need money. And the easiest way of getting money for the government is imposing the tax.
True.
Also, I was listening to this press conference by the finance minister yesterday, and he was of the view that this time each and every person in the country, each and every department of the country is going to be taxed, because according to him, that it's just not through the philanthropic activities in the country that the country is going to be run. The country is going to be run through taxes like the rest of the world. So the planning perhaps is good this time. Do you expect proper implementation of that?
I fully endorse his statement that an organization or a charity organization, a hospital or school can be run on the charity, but country cannot run on the charity. Country need a system where the tax is collected and everybody should pay the tax.
True.
This is statement I fully endorse. Everybody should pay, but there should be a mechanism how the people are encouraged to or facilitated to pay the tax. I mean, there should be some unified system that even the rich people pay the tax.
Right.
The privileged class is invading tax and nobody can catch them.
Right.
And the salaried class is mostly paying the tax because it is deducted on the source. Whenever they pay, the tax is deducted, and after
Not like they want to, they have
yes,
to.
they have to.
GST,
But
yes.
GST and some other taxes from the source they have deducted. But it is the business community and the upper class, the elite class. Unfortunately, in our legislation, National Assembly or Professional Assembly, who are the responsible to make the legislation, they are mostly.
So how can we bring them into the tech snack? Because there's a lot of conversation now, and when Fahim mentioned about philanthropy cannot run the entire country, right? So we need to bring the untaxed people into the tax net. How can we broaden it without burdening the already burdenized people? Because like you mentioned, there's such a higher GST level, right? And obviously, when the GST rises, so does the inflation rises, because there's a bandwagon, a boomeranging effect going on. And I mean, there are multiple ways through which these rich class, through which these privileged class can evade the taxes, right? So what is a more comprehensive mechanism which the government can apply to bring those in the tax net?
In fact, the elite class is sitting in the assemblies, National Assembly or the provincial assemblies. Your landlords, the bade zamindar hai, the industrialists, and most of the influential people, the elite class, they are in the assemblies. So they are making the legislation. They will never pass any legislation which will harm them.
True.
So of course, we have to motivate them. We have to convince them, especially the agriculture tax, which is a huge amount if we collect it. But most of the landlord, they have the hundreds of the murabbas, and they are in the national assemblies and provincial assemblies. They will oppose any tax on the agriculture. So I mean, the privileged class is always protect them because they are the legislation makers, they are the policy makers, they can influence the government. I think that it is the time has come that collectively we have to look after this country, even that the elite class, the privileged class, they also have to think about the country.
But also, sir, if we look at it, if we go to the normal citizen of Pakistan away from the elite class, right, we would see that there is a lot of theft of electricity going on. Till now there was, but now we have seen that the government has been taking a lot of positive steps towards curbing that theft of electricity, and now we have even heard about the smart metering which is coming now, which will be detecting any theft, if any. If there is any theft going on, it will be detecting that. There will be no meter readers as far as my knowledge is concerned, and the information is going to go directly to WAPDA, where the bill will be generated. So do you think these kind of activities, and so many meters have been closed? Because I've been reading the news, I've been going through the news, and especially in Punjab, this has been going on. Electricity theft, I mean, the Chief Minister said that it needs to be curbed, and she has taken a lot of steps in that regard. So would you say that this will also help generate revenue for the government? Because obviously, we know for a fact that electricity is expensive in the country, and if used properly by all households in the country, it will perhaps generate a lot of revenue.
You are absolutely right. Theft is never encouraged. Nobody supports the theft, either is electricity or anything else. But let me remind you, who are stealing the electricity? There are two categories. One is the poor people. Whatever they steal the electricity is a very minute amount. Of course, it is not encouraged. It is not no justification. उन्होंने क्या झोंपड़ी में एक बल्ब लगाना होगा, एक पंखा लगाना होगा. But who are the stealing the big, huge electricity? That are the industrialists. In industry, they are using the heavy electricity. They are huge amount. They are stealing this electricity. So again, it is the privileged class or the upper elite class who are harming the electricity theft to the country. I
But
mean,
then also,
still,
sir, green energy was also encouraged in Pakistan, and we have, since we have a lot of sunlight in Pakistan, people have been going towards solarization, even to the industrial level. Big, huge hospitals, industries, factories, they are going towards, because it's a one-time investment, right? So you can generate your own electricity and be, I mean, the burden can be off from your shoulders as far as the bills are concerned.
you are absolutely right. Green energy is very important, and we have witnessed in Pakistan in the recent years that solar energy is used a lot, and even the household, a lot of people in Islamabad are installing the solar energy in or the rooftop of their houses. It is very good trend. But there are a lot of rumors and in the media that the government is trying to make some kind of taxations or changing its policy, which will harm. Usually, you know, if there is no sustainability of the policies, no continuation of the policies, the people will not trust the government. So if once they have some solar policy, they should sustain it, they should continue it, they should not change without asking the public opinion, the
Right.
consumer's opinion. Otherwise, they will lose the credibility. You know, in 1970s, our former Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he nationalized the industry. Till now, we have not gained the trust of government among the industrialists. So, the government should stick to its policies.
Right.
It is very good trend, and it will help the Pakistan. But unfortunately, in Pakistan, sometimes some of the advisors, some of the ministers, they have the short-term solution to get more revenue and just show in the budget that we have less deficit.
And I think, sir, you highlighted a very important point, which is the continuation of policy, right? And we've seen because of this, I would say, shortfall of the democratic system is that one government comes and then the next government comes after 4 or 5 years, and all of the plans are scrapped and new plans are constructed from the scratch, right? And we see in this pursuit of getting more voter bank or satisfying your own constituencies, very good projects are altered at I would say, are sacrificed at the altar of that constituency or the vote bank, right? So there's a lot of conversation and in the political circles about how they signed the Charter of Democracy, so how there should be a Charter of Economy too, right? Where the good economies, regardless of whoever is in the power, they should have that, because Pakistan used to be once a beacon of hope for the third world country. It was the leader of the third world countries because of a growth rate and because of the success that we achieved. But unfortunately, in the few decades, we have seen that there's a dire need for the economic reforms, right? So do you feel that there's a need that we need to have more conversation of this Charter of Economy and of inducing those economic reforms that are very essential, painful, but in the longer term very essential?
That's true. We endorse it, and there should be Charter of Economy. However, on the budget, our economic indicators are a little bit positive, and especially our growth rate is a little bit higher than the expected or projected by the World Bank.
Right.
So it is positive, and also the government has planned to bring foreign direct investment, especially a Prime Minister visit to China is a very critical time, and he has convinced the Chinese for more investments. I think that in some areas we have performed quite well, especially in the agriculture and other areas, and our export has been also improved. These are the positive indicators,
Right.
and we are hopeful that with the continuation of policies and with the strict adherence to the policies, the government can improve a lot.
You're right,
So-
sir. And this visit, like you just mentioned, Pakistan, the Prime Minister's visit to China, we saw it was a historic visit. You write a lot about China, we've
Yes.
seen, and you specialize in that field.
Yes.
We often criticize the government a lot as far as its policies are concerned, but we have seen of late the formation of the SIFC, the one-window operation. They're trying to make Pakistan a business-friendly country, an investor-friendly country, and that's what they've projected in China as well. and they are trying to project it in other countries as well, that come invest in Pakistan. What future do you see as far as business environment is concerned, as far as foreign investments are concerned, as far as the CPEC is concerned in Pakistan? Because obviously, when we talk about economy, we cannot deny or ignore the CPEC as well, right? So since you write and specialize in that field, I would like to have your opinion on that.
This visit was really historic, and Prime Minister has taken along with him all the important ministers, and Army Chief was with him. So his more focus was on economic ties, and he has addressed the China-Pakistan Economic Forum, Business Forum, and they have introduced SIFC, and they have addressed the concerns of the Chinese, and they have done their best to attract more Chinese investment. We are very optimistic that in the days to come, there will be more direct investment from the China.
Lovely. And also, sir, we have seen, like you mentioned, the growth rate as projected by the other international institutions. It has been better than that. Even in other fields, we have seen that Pakistan has surpassed the goals. The percentage is perhaps far better than what we or the international organizations had predicted.
Right.
But one area where we lack is the foreign investment. So do you think that that positive trajectory of the percentages, as we have seen in different sectors, that is going to continue after the presentation of this budget, and with the formation of the SIFC and with such historic visits of the Prime Minister perhaps in the future as well? We also know that it has been decided that a Chinese delegation is also going to come
Yes.
to Pakistan as
Very
well.
soon. Very
So
soon.
do you think that that trajectory is going to further improve? And we are also where the one area that we lack, that is the foreign investments, we're going to perhaps do better in that field?
You know, foreign direct investment depends on many factors. One of them, the factor is the political stability and the law and order situation in the country.
Right.
Of course, the governments are doing a lot to improve the law and order situation, and also particularly this China visit before the budget was very important. The
Sure.
government is trying its best to create an enabling environment to attract the foreign direct investment.
Yes, it's quite
Also,
evident.
there are some limitations, especially in Europe and American economies are on decline. So there will be very little hope that there will be any direct investment from the Europe and America. But there are chances to have more investment from the Islamic world, in the China and some other developing countries who are developing at the rapid pace. So Pakistan is trying and focusing these countries from where we can expect foreign direct investment.
Right, and thank you so much for saying that. And I think for days to come, we are hopeful about our economic systems recovery and for the better days to come. So with that, we will say thank you to sir for coming here, for having this wonderful cross-pollination
Absolute
of
pleasure,
ideas
sir. Yes.
and a reflection and rumination on the budget. After a short break, we will come back and we will develop an interesting conversation that is, of course, linked to our very profession, that is the communication and how to communicate effectively. So don't go anywhere. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were having the conversation on the budget session, of course, and after that we will now develop the conversation on how to effectively communicate, because there are lots of conflicts, there are lots of misperception that are stemming from the way we communicate, right? Sometimes what the intended message is not exactly how it is perceived by the next party or the other person, right? So how can we communicate effectively?
Sometimes, most of the time.
Yes, most of the time. And that is why my professor, and I always quote in my show, he used to say that the evolution of the language is the single most biggest, he said, the fallacy in the human civilization. Because of the misuse of the language, we see so many conflicts growing up, right? And because of that, we see that there are lots of problems coming on. But how to effectively communicate that too in an environment where we are bombarded with the information, with the knowledge, and especially for the shy people out there, because I mean they are there's a problem, you know, with them communicating to other people out there. So how can they turn this thing around and make it into something which is their strength, right? So without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by someone who is an expert in this field. He is a university professor. He happens to be Asif Rasool. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
It's a pleasure having you, Asif Saab, here. Now, Asif Saab, they say being verbose is a bad thing, or being charb zaban, as they call it in Urdu, is a bad thing. Now, language and communication, how would you compare the two, and how would you compare verbosity with saying just a few words and communicating your whole thing, your whole message? Because I don't think in today's world we see people communicating their messages in a small amount of words. People have to say a lot, people have to use a lot of flowery language in order for them to communicate their message. Is that true, or is it just my observation?
Well, thank you very much. I mean, early in the morning, very tough question. I always expect and I appreciate as well. First of all, I'll just start off with this communication process of very simple definition.
Yeah.
Process of acting on information. For example, whatever you say or do and people respond to it, that is called communication in the simplest term. Now, second aspect is like when we are growing up, actually all of us, we are the products of different environments, different schooling, parenting, family, schooling, the media, the stuff, the reading stuff which we are exposed to. All these factors, they are going to develop a perception.
Right.
So today when I'm going to communicate with someone, or when we people are communicating to other people, so usually our perceptions are in the background. So sometime our perception, they dominate more, okay. Then there is like Dr. Stephen Beebe, he just came up with this wonderful idea that there are three elements which we shouldn't forget. Number one, when I communicate either here or in my classroom or in public gathering, so one is that there are like when two people communicate, actually there are 6 personalities. Now this is something very fascinating and interesting. 2 people and 6 personalities.
I see.
Number one is who I think I am and I know it.
Right.
And what you think about me, this is your aspect. Third aspect is very subtle, what I think you think about me. And the way it affects, I can't tell you. So basically we have got to just work on this like third aspect. If I go somewhere, okay, I have seen people. For example, once we just went somewhere and we had our ex-boss. So since we worked together, he was at one function and he was just communicating with a huge audience. And then he suddenly saw us. And believe me, he changed his topic. And why? Third aspect.
True.
What I think you think about me.
True.
So obviously, now just coming back to your question, yes, problem is that, you know, regarding all other subjects, when we are just growing up, so I mean, if we are good at managing things, everyone is going to appreciate us. If we are reading very nice stuff, someone is going to appreciate us. We go to school, colleges, we perform various activities. We just get a kind of response from people. But perhaps communication is the only thing. Let me ask both of you the same question. Sorry for changing the scenario. Did you ever get this kind of appreciation when you were a growing kid? That, wow, you speak nicely. Oh, yes, you think. Did you ever get this data? I don't think so.
No.
I never got this.
No.
So this is the issue. Regarding all other aspects, we get the data. But when it comes to this particular area, we do not have this data. Believe me now, in this current semester, as Hajra has rightly pointed out this one aspect,
Yeah.
and I would love to expand on that. Believe me, I just came across a lot many students, like A+, top-notch school, colleges, best parenting. But you know what's the problem? Problem is we can't communicate. I said, for God's sake. I mean, we have got people from that strata of the society, they're just coming, like very poor education and all that. This, if they say, I accept that. But in your case, best school, best professors, best parenting. And again, problem is data. And believe me, like, still I could just vividly recall, like, Izza, ex-DG's, I think, daughter. She was in my class from Beacon House. Throughout, she studied in the same system. Believe me, when she speaks, even I literally enjoy. As a communicator, I really enjoy because of that emphatic point of view. Then second, Amina Aman, same schooling, same background. But like when they came initially, they were saying, oh, come on, it's very difficult. But we started our semester. First they perform, I was the first one to appreciate. Wow. And then I have learned this thing that as a professor, I mean, don't only say, excellent, wow, nice. No, no, no. This is the very, very wrong feedback. Just give them right feedback. Okay, yes. I mean, I really, what are my different points? For example, after listening to speaker, okay, yes. I mean, the way you speak with clarity, that's amazing. I mean, your choice of sentences and words, this is amazing. I mean, the way you stand before the audience and the way you communicate with the audience. Now, what happens? A process has started. First of all, perhaps I'm the one. If I really enjoy, I'm going to appreciate.
Right.
As a teacher, I have to appreciate everyone. Then, when rest of the students, they're going to clap. Believe me now, alhamdulillah, I mean, last week we finished with the semester, and I could see a huge change. And now, most of them, they are into public speaking.
Right.
I
So
see.
I think, yes, we cannot deny the importance, and I think Fahim brilliantly mentioned this and developed the conversation on that, that how verbosity is linked with ineffective communication. But then again, there are lots of shy people, but they are very knowledgeable, right?
Yes.
So, yes, and it is said that insecurity is very loud and confidence is usually very silent, right? So when
Wonderful.
Yes. So
Yes.
when we link that with the verbosity, right? So we are talking about effective communication, right? So effective communication is conveying your message to the next person. So it does not always have to be that you have to be very talkative, you have to be very, all the time, you're very chirpy in that sense. So when we talk about the effective communication, yes, I mean, your external environment shapes your perception a lot and shapes your communication strategies a lot. But what about the shy people? I mean, they're unable to express themselves that much, but when they do, they're very effective in that, right? And how do you think the role of social media comes into the play in this entire equation? Because we see that there's a bombardment of information out there. Do you think social media has helped people to be a better communicator, or it has reduced their communication strategy? Because Fahim and I were discussing that social media usually promotes mediocrity, right? So you see the conversations there, generally they are dominated by the people who are talking very ill sort of a stuff. So what is your opinion on that?
Well, again, very good question. Number one, first portion, for example, when people have got certain inhibition, which they develop right from childhood.
Right.
There's a kind of process, you know, like when children are growing up. So initially they are not speaking. Right after the birth, there's the process, okay, like external players, they are communicating, and it gets into their brain. And somewhere down the line, they also develop a kind of inhibition, maybe like personality aspect. Second is maybe in that environment they do not feel comfortable, maybe like parenting issues or any other issue. When they just develop it, they've got like fantastic ideas. But problem is, since they could not communicate, so I mean, I would love to quote here Larry King. He said that when first time I was sitting, and my producer asked me that, okay, directly start. And he said that music started, and I was unable to utter even a single word. Because he was not into the same, like, he loved this, he roamed around all these studios of television and radio, but he couldn't find a job. But ultimately, when he was sitting there, he said, I couldn't. And then he just barged in and he said, come on, we are into talking business, say. And after that, he started speaking. And then, like, gradually, you know, you just get the idea. So, just coming back, this, like, one aspect is personality issue. Now, if we are going to address it at school level, at college level, and I am against that. And when people say that, well, there are different types of personalities, introvert and extrovert, so we should not disturb introvert. No, not at all. I think if we provide them with a very congenial environment in which they are going to flourish, someone perfectly understands that this is the way to handle this. Believe me, they can just come out and they can communicate. Second aspect is like verbosity. You know, yes, social media has triggered it, especially when we listen to these American inexperienced speakers. Let me say it, inexperienced. Why? Because, I don't want to openly say that, but I have seen when it comes to their the content, that's too simple. But you know, the way they're going to expand, you do not get any kind of sense in that. Second thing is like, this, the content which we are just consuming and free of cost. it does not have any kind of content. So that like all these people who just speak a lot, but that's because no one is going to stop them. There is no check and balance on them. But when people are just working in different various other setup or organization, for example, developmental sector, I don't think so that in developmental sector NGOs, you have got highly experienced guys. And I have seen a lot many communicators or people who are just working in the same industry, believe me, they properly plan their messages, they communicate, because they know it. Like one is that they're just working in a multicultural environment. But people who do not have any check and balance and all that, so this is an issue, and I think we should rightly address.
Talking about messages, right? We live in an era of social media. We live in an era of mobile phone technology, right? Where we say that 100% communication is when you talk to a person face to face, right? But now people prefer talking on DMs, talking on SMSs or WhatsApp perhaps, where it creates, like Hajra was mentioning in the beginning, it creates a lot of conflict. And in today's world, there is a lot of conflict as compared to the rest of the decades which have passed, right? So what would you say is an effective means of, these are means of communication, but what about the methodology through which we should communicate in order for us to minimize the conflicts in this era that we're living in?
Very good question once again, but again, the perspective is, what's the purpose of your listening? Most of the time people are sitting on social media and they are not just there to listen to the idea, they're just there to go for the argument. So when your purpose is just to dominate, argue and all that, do you think that you're going to listen to that? No, no, no. You are going to find a single word, a single idea, and then you will start like a reckless kind of discussion and all that. It's like, but if you are just sitting there for a purpose just to comprehend and to understand, then your perspective changes, and obviously you are going to communicate in a very, very different way.
Because also we see a rising trend of divorce in today's era. That's because of two reasons: A, lack of communication; B, lack of tolerance. Tolerance I'm not touching right now, but lack of communication when we talk about. We say the people in today's era, they try to escape difficult conversations, right? They try to avoid conflict, especially when the two people are face to face. And if they do, like in the beginning Hajra said, they will perceive it in some other manner which was not intended, that will lead to a conflict. And since they don't have tolerance, hence the divorces, right? I'm talking about divorces in particular because they are rampant and they are really prevalent in today's society.
Okay. Yes, partially I agree. But once again, my question is, do you think that this is the only factor? Is
No, I wouldn't say the only factor, but I would say a prevalent factor.
Okay, yes, I agree. One is personality types. Okay, for example, when it's not all the time communication problem.
All right.
When you've got personality problem, even Stephen Beebe very beautifully quotes. He said that when you've got personality problem, no communication, no interpersonal skills are going to help you. And ultimately,
when you say
whatever
a
that is,
personality problem, could you elaborate on that?
I mean, perhaps when it comes to like matching with the two personalities, if they do not match, okay. Then second aspect is that because of the social media and because of like a lot many females are coming out of the office, like inside the working environment and all that, and then people have got like a various option as well. So this is another factor where, I mean, they're just living a very beautiful life, they are having kids and all that, and suddenly we get to know that the person is going for the second option and third option. This is another aspect. It's just like not only communication. Third one is that yes, because of the lot many pressures, in this current era, people who really understand that unfortunately it's all over the world and then like in our country as well. So family pressure, like especially financial pressure. Okay, so when you have got this like a fixed kind of idea, you're not willing to sacrifice, because ultimately they say that it's not that both the partners, there's a full-fledged compatibility. Down the line, one has to sacrifice.
And I think I would like to bring
Yeah.
in, because this is a very interesting conversation going on, and since Fahim mentioned that how divorces are on the rise, so I would like to quote here Hazrat Zain al-Abidin, because he was the grandson of Hazrat Ali, and he wrote Risalatul Hukuk, in which it's a very amazing document, 35-page document, and there's a rights of tongue, and he has written that it is incumbent upon us that we respect our tongue, because this is the most respected organ in our body. And so a lot of people, you know, they utter obscenities and just in a casual conversation, right? So he prohibited from doing that, and he also wrote that it is also the right of the tongue upon our body and upon our qalb or our heart, that we only use it when we require it the utmost, right? So speaking less is a prophetic trait, right? Or people who are quiet, that is preferred a lot, because speaking less, there's a wisdom behind that, right? So let's explore and ruminate over this factor, that how speaking less can be a very effective tool in an effective communication.
Adding to what Hajra said, and also connecting this to what you previously said, you know, talking nicely to someone won't cost you anything and can reduce a lot of conflicts, isn't that it?
Animosity,
And
yes.
talking less, like Hajra said, and in a beautiful manner. And that can help a lot in communicating in a better manner, rather than provoking the other person to say something obscene, provoking the other person to have a conflict with you.
Amazing. I wish I could add it in one of the chapters of my communication skill. Look, I really, it's a wonderful discussion early in the morning, and believe me, the way you are asking questions, that's amazing. Sitting in a utopian world, all of us, we can imagine that this ought to happen. Ought
Right.
to. It's a very complex, we rarely use this structure. But in reality, all of us, we have got different personalities. And believe me, I have seen people among my bosses, among my students, those who are hot-headed, they know it. I mean, they've read it. They know the consequences as well. But even then, they can't. I think the change comes with the passage of time and with different scenarios. For example, where you know that now perhaps stakes are very high, in that specific scenario, maybe you're going to cool down, you will communicate. Otherwise, if we follow this perspective, I think it's going to solve 98% of our communication
So one
problem.
last question, because
Wonderful.
of the
I
paucity of
fully
the
agree.
time. How can we control our anger in an era where the freedom of expression is promoted a lot, and in the guard of that, I mean, people are uttering whatever they want to do that, right? So how can we do that with responsibility?
Problem is, Hajra, now, I mean, if you are going to be very much rowdy, everyone is going to clap for you. So when rest of the people are saying that, well, you are saying this, everyone is clapping for you, why should I sit and why should sit silently? We are going to do it in the same manner. I think there should be a check and balance, and we should avoid, I mean, there should be a kind of, you know, red flag that, come on, enough, it's not fair, the way you are going, okay? But problem is that people usually go with the same. But we can just change, all of us, as we have got like this contagious aspect in our personality. So perhaps when you are communicating, for example, when I am just communicating with both of you,
Yeah.
perhaps my style has completely changed. No, it's like very soothing kind of style, very soothing kind of question. Questions are very hard, very tough. But style.
You would like
really-
to reframe it that they're very intellectual, right? We don't say that they are hard, right? It's stimulating a lot of discussion, but thank you so much, sir, for illuminating
It's
over
been an
the...
immense pleasure talking to you in the morning, first thing in the morning, first program in the morning, and I think we learned a
Yes,
lot.
and I think something that is very intricately linked to our profession, because it is
Yes.
about speaking. Thank you so much for coming here. And with that, we will say you goodbye. Until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz and
And
good
good morning.
morning.